What is up, Robot Wars fans? Hardcore Kid here with another miniaturized edition of the Hardcore Podcast. Robot Wars and BattleBots may be over for the year, but that doesn't mean robot combat has ended. Because today, and for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about those Fab Four, the Beetles, the Beetleweights. It is Bugglebots. Joining us for this buggy adventure, I have joining me on Skype. He is known by Vince Russo as this generation's Tony Schiavone. It's Otaku Nate.
Hey, Brandon. Bugglebots when?
Bugglebots now, son.
Is that like Action League now?
Ouchies. Who do we have joining us today, Nate?
Well, first and foremost, we have the captain of one of the biggest surprises from BattleBots this season, a man who may not have had that much luck in the UK, but when he came to the US, he shocked us all, myself included. He is the captain of a bot that became somewhat of a meme, the little blue monsoon that could. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tommy Brewster.
Hello.
Tommy!
Tommy!
Hi, how's it going?
Going good? And
Good.
And our second guest, a man as legendary for his robot combat skills as is his mohawk. He's a mainstay of the shunt posting group for Robot Wars. He is a roboteer from Robot Wars, BattleBots, ClashBots, and on occasion, a midget boxing referee. He is Robot War's own big sexy, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tim Rackers.
Good evening, gentlemen.
I have been waiting all year to call you that, Tim.
You've stored that up for some time.
That was a sensational intro, I have to say. Usually I get more profanities, so I'm quite pleased to
UK's
get something.
Mr. Big Sexy.
Mr. Big Sexy.
I have never used that in public.
Real man.
It was the nickname of former WWF WCW star Kevin Nash, and also the nickname of MLB future Hall of Famer Bartolo Colon.
I would have also accepted Rikishi references, you know.
What about Kevin Owens, though? He's awesome, too.
I think I've torn the lid off without knowing enough wrestler names.
And last but not least, we cannot forget this guy. Speaking of Tony Schiavone, this guy was one of the commentators for Bugglebots, along with Boat Saxon 07, a.k.a. Stephen McCullough. He is the heir to the throne of the kingdom of Eric. It is Alasdair Sutherland.
Hey.
How you doing, Alasdair?
Not too bad.
Who the hell is Alasdair?
Yeah, that's going to confuse
The
a lot of
sub.
people.
The
No one
sub.
knows that name.
Alasdair, Herr Kommissar.
Alasdair?
Ah, je suis Alasdair.
Ooh, he is actually
See,
French.
now that's just confusing.
I have a thing. You know how Robot Wars has its own U.S. commentary?
Oh God, yeah.
And you know, apparently they're going to be airing BattleBots in the UK very soon. Have you and Steven considered doing your own UK commentary of the BattleBots?
Oh, I would love that because I would
Can I-
spend good quality time making every American cry.
So, can I interject on that? So, the American commentary on Robot Wars. Do you remember, like 2 years ago, when they did the that news piece on someone repainted Jesus in that chapel? That's how I view the American commentary of Robot Wars.
Yeah,
It's like that terrible
it is
painting
really that bad.
trying to save
As
that
did
picture.
I.
If you want,
I managed to listen to it for about 11 seconds, and then I wanted to like rip my ears out.
Oh.
Well, they cut the good stuff. They cut the good stuff.
if you want good American Robot Wars commentary, listen to Stefan Frank. He knows how to make it rock. So, Bugglebots, what is this Bugglebots, you say?
Why
Well, it's a Beetleweight robot event featuring a bunch of 3-pound, 1.5-kilo machines, not the huge, lumbering 250-pound monstrosities you see on TV. But I can tell you, these guys also can put on a good show. And believe it or not, the Beetleweight class, I would say, is hands down one of the most, possibly the most popular weight class in the sport right now. We got all kinds of weight class, all kinds of events in the U.S. are having it, and now the UK is finally adapted the Beetleweight, gotten in on the fun, and I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far.
Well, Beetleweight has been going for quite a while in the UK. It just hasn't had the
panache.
Yeah, the sort of we've been taking a while to get out of the blocks, because I mean I started in Beetleweights back in 2015, so it takes a little while to get out the blocks, but we've gotten fairly going. There's a large number of Beetle builders in the UK up and down the country now, which is part of the reason why it was the chosen weight for this show, because it's a really good, how can I put this, open class. Because at the one end of the scale, you've got things like Drizzle. You've got things like MyBot Ravage, which is an insane horizontal bar spinner. You've got all the complicated stuff where you need to have a brain in your head and spend some quality time working out the numbers to make them work or not work. And if it makes you feel any better, Tom's robot isn't the only one that can faceplant. Ravage exploded after about 9 seconds. So it's self-destructed in heroic style as well, so still a work in progress. But with Beetles in the UK, there are companies in the UK where you can buy the material reasonably cheap. The only thing we're lacking is speed controllers, which we're working on. And it's all you need is a jigsaw and a bit of optimism, and you get robots. I mean, like Good Boy was done about an evening one night when he had some spare parts and threw them all together.
You could never tell. It became a clusterbot of its own doing.
Yeah. I need wheels. Oh, look, a tennis ball.
Perfect.
Yeah, but I will say the one negative I can say about the episode is that the matches were short, but I do hope it gets better. Well, we'll get to a little that in a bit, but yeah, I think we may as well start talking about the episode. We'll start off with let's start with the presenters. How about we'll start off with the host, Cowboy Bob Horton, and his awesome hair.
I understood that reference.
I think if you met him, he's probably the least cowboy person you'll ever meet.
Hey, you gotta understand. You gotta understand with Bob, the hair was born first, and he grew from the hair.
Oh, that's cute.
I thought he was
hair is sentient of its own being. It just is.
He's quite, in all fairness, with that hair, he's quite a ravishing host. One would say. He's just used to being on stage. He sort of puts on a little bit of a show, and he was really good. If there was a lull, it was really good, because obviously what you don't see on these shows, and at Robot Wars, my God, there's an interim presenter. Now the other two, Sav will know because he was in the audience, because obviously I was in the first audience of the new series coming back. The interim presenter, if you're there for more than one show, you get to hear his material again. So there's like 2 shows a day. I was there for 4 days when I went up to watch it the first time in Series 8, and I was lucky enough to hear that material 8 times. So for Bob to be able to just keep people going in between the shots as well as in the shots is a really good skill. And he brought his theatre and his I don't know how to describe it. He's a bit of an anomaly sometimes.
Charisma. He's a charismatic enigma.
Yeah, he's a charismatic enigma. Yeah. I think it's a good way to put it.
That's good.
Without the agility of Jeff Hardy, can I just put that out there?
And he does all that without being a douche canoe, so he's pretty on on point.
He paints over the veneer of being a douche canoe, but actually he's a really nice bloke.
Well, when you're a presenter, you got to have a good personality and be nice and all that stuff. And I look forward to seeing more of how it goes. What else? The commentary.
Hey.
So this was recorded separately in a studio, Alasdair?
As you do.
You say studio. What it was recorded separately in Joe Brown's wardrobe. Because it was the only place where we could get good sound masking, so all you could hear was me and Stephen.
And your bravados. and
there's so much stuff that did not get in. Oh wow! I mean, right. Me and Tom have been friends for about, I'd say, a year and a bit now.
Really?
And the amount of just brutality I unleashed on Drizzle that didn't make it in.
Oh my god!
Because it was just so savage. I mean,
Please tell me he saved those files.
I believe there's enough files that you could probably do an hour-long episode of just me mocking Drizzle.
God damn it.
It really was bad. But in fairness, and Tom knows this, if I did a Beetle that did what Drizzle did, he would do the same to me.
Probably, yes.
He would do the exact same, but it would be in the same way as I did it with love. He would do it with love and a degree of mocking. It was just the absolute hilarity. And what you don't realise is that was the first episode that me and Stephen had ever done commentary together. I met Stephen the night before at the airport after I had just come off of work. So I'd flown down from Glasgow to Bristol. Stephen's plane had been delayed. So he'd flown in from somewhere in Ireland, near Guinness, I don't know. Landed, and we were both absolutely dead. So, and then we were just sort of like, we spent a good portion of the night sort of trying to work out how to sort of create signals to each other so we could like jump in and stuff with things. And then it got to the first recording and that went straight out the window and we just kept talking for hours. The entire recording of our audio was sponsored by energy drinks and Pro Plus. It just was. There was more caffeine and takeaway. Yeah, there was more caffeine going through our bloodstream than the average crew of a long distance lorry team. It was just obscene, and we had never worked together. I'd met Joe twice. I'd never met Ben at all. I think I may have met him once briefly at a previous Beetle event where I volunteered to do commentary because I couldn't get a robot together in time, but I wanted to go down and see my friends because, it's nice to see you buddies. Yeah. And apparently that did well, and so they wrote me in for that, and that's how I ended up in there. But yeah, we did all the recording in 2 days in Joe's wardrobe.
Like that other film you made with him.
Oh, jeez. So it had you locked in the wardrobe all that time?
There was an air mattress over the door. It was such a health and safety hazard because there was like wires going everywhere. I could only hear things in my left ear, and Stephen could only hear things in the right ear from the headsets because there was something not quite right with the wiring. So we looked like really confused sports pundits. It worked really well because we could sort of hear everything, and we only got to see the pre-match interview, and then it went into the fight, and then we got the post-match, so we had some context for commentary later on. But a lot of the technical info that I'm talking about as I do commentary is knowing what I know from building and sheer guesswork just from watching the damn fight.
I was always under the impression, like, usually when I watch I watch the Robot Wars and listen to JP's commentary, it almost kind of sounded like it was a bit predetermined or scripted, like, or no?
We had no idea what was going to happen. That was every single bit of commentary is the first time we've seen the fight. Our reactions are completely genuine. They're completely genuine. They're completely off the cuff. And the jokes we make at people's expenses are completely improvised at the time. There was no script. Actually, no, I tell a lie. The bit where we were explaining the judges and how each fight works, that bit had a script. That was mainly because it was easier for us to remember the information, and my dyslexia makes life entertaining when we're trying to do it. It took me longer to do the little. It was literally a half a page script, and it took us longer to get that right than it did to record the entire commentary.
Wow. Well, I think it all you pulled it off in the end. It was definitely worth it.
It also helps that Steven has experience doing commentary with Anthony's Antweight Anarchy series, which, by the way, you should be watching.
Yes,
absolutely.
Just had the Christmas
totally.
Special. What else is there to talk about? The referee was pretty cool.
Yeah, that ref was a nice guy. I wish I got to meet him in person.
Yeah. What'd you think of him, Tim?
He seemed all right. Yeah. Fairly good. I did have a partner in crime, Shane. He was sort of running more operations, whereas I was sort of doing the handling of people and the matches as such. So he was more on the control of the arena and other side. So we sort of worked well with each other in that regard. It was full on. Like I've been at events where I've watched matches and participated in matches, but like the weird thing is when you're refereeing, as imagine as judging as well, it's a bit of a harbinger sometimes because you don't realise how long you're watching those matches unedited with the stops in between. It's quite a full-on experience. So there's lots of things that I seem to remember and think about after the fight, and then when you watch it back on TV or YouTube, it just seems different. You know, it just seems really sort of different. Like, it's a different experience refereeing, and as well, you get a few people who don't like certain decisions or maybe sort of complain about small things. But I think that's quite good because there's not many who argue with me, in all fairness, or dare to argue. As Tom knows, I'm incredibly stubborn with some things. But you kind of have to be as a ref, though, really, because you need to be certain in your own decision. If somebody makes you second guess yourself, then you lose your credibility with something. So, yeah, it was really fun, but it was I kind of miss getting involved with the actual build and fighting.
Well, if Bugglebots 2
Tim,
happens.
your obsession with wiring, Tim, does like your anality creeps in on slightly on that one.
Yeah, maybe a tad. We'll get to my input on things later on regarding building.
Well,
yeah.
Well, hopefully, when Bugglebots 2 happens, when is Bugglebots 2 going to happen? Who knows?
When we want it to happen. That's all I'm saying.
I have it on firm authority. It will be roughly about the same time we get a solid Brexit deal. So
don't go there.
Keep our politics out of this podcast.
I can't stand politics.
That was about as stealthy as a vajazzle in Brazil.
So I guess we'll move on. We'll start talking about each of the competitor robots. And of course, we'll start from best performing robots to robot that Tom killed. We'll start off with the winner of this heat, America, God grace. I forget the rest on the.
God shed his grace on thee.
It is Captain Doom.
Oh,
Captain Doom, D2 kit bot.
Yes, the most popular kit bot of them all, and for good reason. It's very effective. Yeah,
It is.
I know, and I know people. They really aren't big fans of D2 kits, mainly because of, not just because that they're for that it's a kit bot, but also because there's just too many of them. Like you look at Captain Doom, and it's essentially the same kit, the same D2 kit that you'd see at many other events, like Robo Games. The top 3 finishers at the 2015 one were all the same bot, essentially. And I think the reason, aside from them being effective, they're very easy and simple to work with, especially when you have little kids operating them, I think. And
I would say for kids, the D2 kit is a great thing because it is, like, as I said in previous conversations with people, it's a great stepping stone.
Training platform.
It's a bit like when you get your first bike and it's got stabilizers. You know, you need them. It gives you the security of, like, I have a bot that works. It is kind of competitive. If you give it to the hands of someone who has no soul and wants to pay in a good credit card, it's very competitive. But the thing is, it can be developed. It's what the D2 is, and what I hope that someone is going to do one day is take the D2 and completely regurgitate it into something absolutely just brutal. Because put an active weapon on it. If someone can make an active weapon that fits in a D2 kit, that would be amazing.
The problem is you're then leaving your sort of target market there, aren't you? You're sort of leaving the people who just want to learn to drive. I feel I really have this strong feeling that I don't mind kit bots. I'd never buy one myself, but I personally, with something that has a weapon on or anything that has potential to cause damage or harm, 100% I think you should build it yourself, but ask advice, because I think people who there's that risk, isn't there? There's new people who want to get involved, want to have fun, and you see plenty of cases. I was guilty of it when I first started building, where health and safety might not be thought about. And after we did one sort of test when we first started, and afterwards we sort of realised, maybe from now on we need to be far more careful, because you want to see it work, you want to see something run. So, luckily we didn't put it out there online or anything stupid like that. But you get people who will buy a weaponized robot and feed something into it while they're standing there with a camera, or you'll get people it's a safety risk. You need to understand the dangers of the weapon. So when you buy a D2 kit, I think that's right for the time being, because there's very little potential for them to hurt themselves.
Yeah, it's I will say it definitely it also helps. I think that in Tyler's case, I faced him quite a few times, and say what you will about him, I know Dad loves to make fun of me whenever I lose to him, but he's hands down one of the best drivers in the sport right now.
Yeah,
he ain't gonna have trouble getting his license, that's for sure. Yeah,
I don't know if he drives like that on the road, look out.
He made us clear the road for him to drive through. So,
I'll be brutally honest, and I'll put this on record. I say within the next 5 years, you're gonna see Tyler driving a heavyweight and winning things, and not just winning things very well. If you gave him, I reckon that right now, if you gave him a robot like Original Sin and put him in an environment like Robo Games, he would maybe, I wouldn't say he'd place high, but he'd be in the top 10. It would be a different experience for him, and he would, but out of the bat, I reckon he could top 10 cold with something like Original Sin.
Top 10 with Original Sin, he'd win the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but you got to understand, it's like
he's a young lad.
He's a young lad, and driving heavyweights is a hell of a different thing from driving Beetles.
Well, take Michael Oates, for example. When he went into the Series 9 final, he has got tons of experience. He's fought hundreds and hundreds of robot fights. He knows Eruption inside out. But to go up in that final, he did lose his first time, but to go up in that final, he was so nervous. Like, someone who seemed so calm the whole time, he was genuinely shaking. And luckily, we were allowed to stay on slightly longer than some other teams in that series. And so we got to see the final unfold firsthand. And seeing him like that was quite humanizing of the sport, because I know a lot of people put champions and winners on this pedestal, but to see like a humanized side of people when they are vulnerable and they're going to that arena, you just how much pressure it's on. Like the first time I met Suv, I can't remember who I was going in to fight Suv. I think I was going in to fight Nuts again for the second time or something. Or
yeah,
I can't remember, but I was like, you guys know me in person, I'm a good laugh. I like to have a laugh. If we're not laughing, something's wrong. You know what I mean? So when I went into that arena and Suv first said hello to me, I was quite short with him, in all fairness. I think I even offered you a bag of sweets and then threw it to someone else.
Yeah, you did.
If I remember correctly, yeah. I did.
Yeah,
because I was throwing sweets out to the audience. I sort of went up in and did that. But it's that pressure, that moment. It's crazy. Heavyweights on a stage is so next league. Like it's hard to describe. So to see this little kid do so well in this episode, his skill will transfer to heavies. But I'm sure you'll say as well, Tom, he did get pretty damn stressed when he was there at certain points.
Yeah.
Because he's 100% the drive. He's all about the driving. The technical side, he's somehow not fussed in of the robot.
Nate, anything to say about Captain Doom?
Damn, that is one fast sumbitch.
Yeah.
It's like watching one of those Japanese sumo matches with the Antweight bots, except they're not automated.
Somebody just made a post on Shunt Posting. I don't know if it was Tom or Gus or whoever. Like Doom just drives straight behind Fudanishi and it does
yeah. Omae wa mou shindeiru.
Yeah. Yeah, but Tyler's a really he's a good kid. He's a good driver. He's also a really good promo. Like when he was listing down his credentials, he listed all the events he won. He actually name dropped Penbots and Sword, which was the events that we have out in Pennsylvania, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, I think he won the episode. He did really good driving by him, and I look forward to see how he does in the grand final, I believe it is. Or how's this format working? It's how many heats?
So it's just like Robot Wars in the fact that there's going to be a couple of heats, and the people who win those will go into the final, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, no spoilers.
Just one last point on the whole Captain Doom thing. That interview with Tyler versus Serious Business's driver.
Mm-hmm.
Listening him list off his wins. What's funny is watching the team with Serious Business slowly realise just what they're actually going in against. And you can actually see it on his face as he realises that he's gone from just like, oh, it's just a kid with a kit, to, crap, I'm fighting a guy who's dominated people who've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was funny.
He was a pretty skillful driver, that's for sure. That's for sure. I do wonder, though, how that would translate to the heavyweights, because, you know, you can get as good as you can at the Beetleweights, but driving a heavyweight is just so different.
Well,
Personally speaking, going from, like, the heavyweights down to antweights, which is literally the way I went, and antweight was just so twitchy. When I drove TTRA the first time, it was just the twitchiest thing in the world. And I think Beetleweights are great because you can get used to them and how twitchy they can be. But going to heavyweights, I think, will be very different for him, that's for sure.
Well, there is one little update thing to mention, but apparently the Team Doom team are going to be competing with a new featherweight robot for Motorama coming up, and it's called Major Doom.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
so
I was wondering what direction to go to, because I was trying to work it out whether it was going to be like Major, Admiral,
or is he going to have
Doom.
a big old flange wedge on the front as well?
Major Wedge.
Major
on
wedge.
that subject, let us also not forget that Alex Brown won his first robot combat event when he was only, like, what, 12?
Alex is...
Oh, yeah, he did, didn't he?
Do you know what? I think the world of Alex. I know TR3 and TR2 and all that, they get a bit of stick from this, that, and the other. But Alex sort of, he's always got a smile on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter how frustrating a situation or something like that, Alex has always got a smile on his face. And he's a really good driver. And that's part of the play, isn't it? He's got that smile, you feel comfortable, and then suddenly this demon behind the sticks comes out, and you're like, oh, crap. Yeah, I got relaxed. He's a really good little driver, and, you know, full credit to him. It's a good mention. That's a good mention.
Yeah, so I think that sums up Captain Doom. We'll continue going down the list, and we'll move on to the Heat finalist.
Oh, no.
Tom, are you familiar with this robot, Drizzle?
No idea. No, not at all. No. Oh, Drizzle.
The most amazing robot in this heat for both good and bad reasons.
I think it may have had the quickest average fight time. I'm just guessing, but it may have done.
No, Toron still holds that record. I'm sorry.
We've already come up with a nickname for Tom.
Oh, no, don't.
5 Second Tom.
Oh, that's not true, and everyone knows it.
Totally true.
So what can you tell us about Drizzle?
Anyway, yeah, back on topic. Drizzle. So this was to be my first Beetleweight, and I'm not known for building very sensible robots. I mean, yeah. So I knew that I wanted to do a vertical spinner, but I didn't want to do a very meta design, and so this is the most meta design I can possibly do. And even this is the most stupid thing that I could have probably built. And yeah, I wanted to make a vertical spinner, and I wanted it to be, related to the Monsoon family. And as a result, I gave it the bar. But of course, it doesn't entirely work. So, yeah. The biggest issue for me, though, was that BattleBots was only a couple of months prior, and Insomnia, as in the UK featherweight event, was only 2 weeks before, or something like that.
10 days or something, yeah.
It was not long. I mean, we had about 3 months to make the robot, and for everyone that would be great. But myself with BattleBots and Insomnia, it was tricky. It was challenging.
You had to wait for your tools, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. The tools, of course, were in the crate. Like all of the big tools were in the crate, and it proved to be a little tricky. But I got it built just about. But it was little things like I didn't actually Loctite the bolts, for example. I just one of the things that passed my mind. The pulley, of course, was not tightened up on the motor shaft for the weapon. So that was a thing that happened as well. On the shaft, yes. And the wiring was slightly bodged, of course, but it works now, of course. But
Yay!
Anyway, Drizzle, yeah. that was a thing.
It's like about a couple of weeks after he came back from BattleBots, Tom and me were chatting, and he sent me a picture of the CAD of Drizzle. And the first thing I said to him was, that is either going to detonate things or itself.
And then it just shat its pulley out across the arena.
Yes, oops. Lob it across the arena.
I seem to have a gift for predicting when robots are going to detonate.
Yep.
You're a jinx, Alasdair. Get out of here.
Hey, just like me.
Yeah.
Oh, Drizzle.
That's why we have you with us, Nate.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast will self-destruct any second now.
Boom.
Oh God. Oh God.
But yeah, I will say, when Drizzle works, it really is fun to watch. Just that one big hit on, I think it was Good Boy, and it actually...
That was amazing.
Oh, you got a hole in one.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, that may be somewhat controversial, depending on your thoughts of the rules, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. But Drizzle, it reached the Heat final, and it goes on to a 5-way melee afterwards. I think that's how it works.
It's okay if it's in a 5-way.
I believe so.
Oh, yeah. And so we'll move on to continuing down. Oh my goodness, really. Moving on, if you get past the awkward name of this robot, it actually does look pretty cool. It's called Futamishi.
Futamishi. Axebot. And that's enough about Futamishi, because we didn't really see much of it.
Oh, Futamishi.
I found the artwork on the side a bit hard to work out what they actually were until someone told me it was Blossom.
To be cherry blossoms.
Yeah. I was about to say, you stole my thunder, Alasdair. It's cherry blossom branches, sakura trees.
I thought it was a giant eyeball with the retina sticking out.
I'm definitely not allowed to say what I thought it was. So
why not?
Well, in that case, I shall say. Better Futamishi than Futanari, and please do not look that word up.
No.
There was one little thing at Futamishi. So he's done ants before. I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, but he's done ants before, and he sort of reused the ant parts in the Beetle. So he had ant-weight drive motors, and that's one of the big reasons I think he struggled, was because the gear he had in there just didn't have enough grit, didn't have enough. Just enough power, really, for something in that weight class. I know people have used them before, but that's usually on things like massive verts or something. I believe Will Thomas used ant weight motors on one of his big verts.
I used ant weight motors on Ravage, and that worked because it was a horizontal. So it had and I had 4 of them as well.
Yeah. Most people would use 4, but unfortunately, this guy he used what he knew from ants, and I'm really, really impressed that he came out and built his first Beetle, and it held together fine. But it's just that it was a shame that if he had proper Beetleweight drive motors in there, I think he would have stood a bit more of a chance, really. But it's learning.
He'd overweight the size of the axe motor.
And in all fairness, my first one caught on fire with the drive. So people make mistakes with drive quite easily.
I give him credit for being able to put an axe weapon on there, because that's a weapon that we really don't see that much on Beetleweights.
Beetleweight axe is a very difficult thing to do, because it's just you got to get the mechanism in, and by the time you got the mechanism in, you run out of weight.
So I've been working on for a little while a spring-loaded axe for a Beetle that recoils, but I'm struggling to get it in weight in the CAD. I haven't shown anyone yet because it is a hefty boy at nearly 2 kilos at the moment. So
I think I once played around with the idea. I put some bits together to see if I could get one. I had a 4250 size brushless running through a belt drive to the axe, and my theory was it was just like they run Lem 200s and 170s and axe bots and heavyweights, so it must scale down. Oh, how wrong was I? It was sitting at 1.7 kilos by the time I just got the axe mechanism together. So it was just like, that isn't going to happen. I think it's going to take someone to work out how to do a very compact brushless gearbox for an axe mechanism. And I can guarantee you, I can name people that would probably manage it. And when they manage it, it's going to make a very effective little axe bot. But you've also got to factor in that at a Beetleweight size, 8mm HDPE is almost bulletproof for an axe. You can't put the mass behind the point to do any real damage. It almost turns into a grabber. And at that sort of size, if you're going to do a grabber, you're better off just having a big reduction on a normal motor and having a proper claw.
Yeah, it really seems to be the thing these days. Like, because with the axe bots, all the robots have just gotten so thick. You may as well just like use it just to like put it right through the armor and just drag it around, like something to that effect.
Have you ever tried to drive a nail through HDPE?
Yeah, I did some screws once.
Well, yeah, try a good experiment. If you want to try and make a Beetleweight axe bot, try and drive a standard nail through 10mm HDPE and see how much force you need to do that. That's what you've got to try and put into a Beetleweight drive weapon for an axe to make it effective.
Yeah, I feel like talking about overhead weapons, we're moving naturally on to the next robot, really.
Yeah, let's move on to any last words to say about Futamishi? Anybody? No. All right.
Rest in pieces.
So we'll move on to the other second round finisher from the Chimera team. It is Nightingale.
Nightingale.
Overhead saw. That didn't really work all that much. Because the motors kept falling off.
I saw this and I'm like, oh my god, it's Sawblaze.
No, I do like a good overhead saw, and I think when you get a weapon like that, it can be really cool just because it's so animated, and it can really spice up a fight. So.
I always like those designs where you're able to incorporate at least two different weapons, like either an axe or a spinner. And it's just a shame we really didn't get to see it in action since it broke.
As I described it in its first fight, when the motor falls out, it basically becomes a slapping weapon because there's not really enough pace to sort of bring it down. It's like it's controlled movement, because with the saw, if you bring it in too quickly, you just jam and break everything. It's all about the control of bringing it in slowly. And watching a saw slowly slice into your robot can mess with you slightly.
A nice slow slice.
It is very unnerving, especially if you remember suddenly that it's right over your batteries.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'm still reminded of that hyperactive Gloomy match. But Nate, what do you think of Nightingale?
It looked really cool. I just wish that it worked as intended. It got really unlucky.
Yeah. I think that the problem with building an overhead like that is you've got to think about weight distribution, and I think for a first one it looks really good, and then as soon as you see the arm move, you sort of see how unbalanced it is with the weight. The second the arm's back, forks are in the air when they drive. It's a learning curve thing. You need to sort of really study other ones, how people have done it, or trial and error, which I think is the route they're going, which is equally as okay. And for a starting robot, it was well put together, and it drove quite nicely, even though the forks didn't stay on the ground that much. But in that first fight, the initial impact of hitting someone's I can't remember who they hit. Was it Good Boy? It was
Good Boy.
That initial saw movement, so that resistance they had on the lid was enough to pull their weapon motor off of its mount, and they then left it on. To which I'm not meant to intervene in fights, but I was like, that's quite an expensive little motor. I sort of leant in and was like, you need to turn that off. It's flying around, like a hose when you leave it on, you let go, and it's going crazy.
Yeah.
It was doing that, and I was like, it's going to break itself. So I was like, just turn it off. Yeah. So a bit of impartial refereeing there.
I really hope, and I hope that the young Elizabeth from Nightingale hears this, and I really sincerely want them to go away, sit down, and just write out everything that wasn't working on that robot, and then for number 2, stick with the saw, but just develop it. Really develop it, because the UK doesn't have many overhead saws. There is another one further on in the series, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert. But there is a distinct lack of overhead saws in the UK. Yeah. And I reckon if Nightingale just solve its teething problems, that's all it's got is teething problems. It needs developed. Don't bin it. Develop it, because I reckon if they develop that, they've got a serious contender there. Because young Elizabeth, she's used to driving heavyweights. She drives them in the live circuit all the time.
She has Chimera. Chimera, anyone else? Who else does she have?
There's Chimera, there's Fenrir? Is it Fenrir?
Fenrir, at the last event, they've properly sort of got their drive system sorted. It was working reliably. They did quite well, actually. I think they pitted someone. They're sort of a slow momentum, but they're getting there. They're learning. They're teaching themselves. It's good. And it's not the real nice thing about this team is there's such a family feel. When you see them go with the big heavies, the uncle's there, the dad's there, the mums, it's just everyone is there. Do you know what I mean? It's like a real, like everyone's there, and it's really nice to see this sort of little community they got themselves in of the family getting involved, which is such a nice thing to see.
This it does look a little bit like a Chimera Junior in a way. It's got the wedges at the front. It's got the thwacking thing. There's some kind of semblance there.
I think it definitely shares some design elements, and things like just like the colors, for example. And I think that's really good. And on the topic of the overhead saws, I think it's really cool that we have more of this kind of robot.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Because in a field of spinners and wedges, of course I am a spinner, but to get that kind of design into 1.5 kilograms is a real challenge in itself. And to do it as your first Beetleweight, I think is fantastic.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Mine is just a great big spinner, and I struggled quite a lot to get it in weight. And mine's only got like 2 mil HDP lids,
Yeah.
And it's not really the heaviest weapon, but I really struggled to get it in weight. And for them to do it as their first robot is really good. It's really cool.
It's like you've got 3 guys who in different weight categories are all known for having some of the most dangerous spinners. Concussion is quite brutal. Monsoon occasionally turns up and does something when it wants to. And I've got blunt force trauma, which is one of the fastest spinning verts in the featherweight scene in the UK. Now, we all have big spinners in our own sort of category. That doesn't mean we don't appreciate other good engineering. We all love these stupid things, and not just because we want to try and beat them, but because we want to see people try new things. For a long time, the meta in the UK was the wedge flipper. And it was a case of, it's Manta, no, it's Shockwave, no, it's Toxic, no, it's Iono, no, it's Eruption. You know what I mean? And that was all you would ever see at the shows. And now you've got people bringing in the hammer bots. You've got the overhead saws are starting to come a cropper again.
Spinners
you've got
now
middleweights making an appearance in the UK for the first time in, I think, about 15 years?
Maybe I'd say. Maybe.
There's one amazing one that looks like a Star Destroyer, and I absolutely
that's glorious.
It's so effective, but it's so cool.
Is that the backflip?
If you get the chance, you need to go on
It looks like a pallet truck.
Some of the middleweight videos, and you'll see it. It's called Backflip.
That's
the guy's first ever robot, and it's well impressive.
I was about to say, was that the backflip robot? Yeah, that robot is amazing.
It's so different. Yeah, I love it.
I've seen it. It looks amazing. Reminds me of this is a very obscure reference. Reminds me of the enemy's Heave Ho from Super Mario 64.
Ooh, Heave Ho.
You definitely weren't lying when you said obscure.
I'm a gamer, and you've lost me.
I'll send you the image in the chat.
I can kind of remember it, but then I'm an OAP in this bit, so...
It's like a giant dustpan.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely hope to see more of Nightingale and Lizman continuing to do well in the sport, and I hope to one day maybe having her. I hope to have her on the podcast and maybe quiz her on if she knows every single competitor to ever compete in Robot Wars. Wasn't that the gimmick? Knows every single competitor that's ever competed in Robot Wars, including international series. The U.S., German, and the Nickelodeon series.
I'll have to ask them. I'll have to ask her. What is the only Robot Wars team from Guernsey?
Oh boy,
that's a good question.
I'm not googling that at all.
I'm not.
I'm not.
No, don't. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's move on.
Christmas if we don't.
Let's move on to the best robot in this episode. Good boy.
Rattus.
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
The goodest of boys.
Goodest of boys.
Oh, it's It's a wedge with tennis balls for wheels.
Oh, he's a good boy, though, isn't he? He's a good boy.
It was really cool. I always enjoy seeing robots figuring out wacky ways of making their robots move. Like there's this roboteer that I know, Richard Kelly. He builds like really rock solid like little insects, ants, and beetles, but they always use recycled materials. Like his Beetleweight uses those little tire balls you throw, those little spiky balls you put into a dryer. He uses those as wheels.
That's impressive. I mean, I like some of the ones. There's a guy in America I've seen use pool noodles.
Yes.
Which I thought was quite cool. I quite like that.
So, fun fact, I've actually been stricken, wonderstruck by 2 roboteers in the world with pool noodles repeatedly. So I'm sure you know one.
Yes, we know one.
Yes.
Which is Mr. Tweedy himself, the man of 2 halves. And the other one is John Reed from Sarah Peter. Simply because we were rushing to get into the final with Concussion, which was in bits. And me being super anal about my wiring, decided to be super anal with only 3 minutes remaining. And he was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And started smacking me over the head with a pool noodle he seemed to be carrying around the whole time.
That's
because
what you
of
get.
course, at a robot event, you have a pool noodle.
That's what you get for making a meme out of him.
Yeah. He's very cross. I will give them credit that they still managed to keep going in that match against Nightingale, even though they were down a wheel, down a ball, and they still kept to traverse around the arena.
When we did the commentary for the series and we were watching the fights, we just watched the Captain Doom fight, and the first one, and it had lasted about 9 seconds, and we were sort of like, okay, it's going to be one of those episodes. And then this fight happened, and I swear this is true. No, you know how there's the old analogy that if someone's getting into something, they lean forward. Right? If me and Stephen had leaned forward any further, the stools that we were sitting on would have fired out from underneath us. We were really into it because it was, and you can hear it in the commentary as we're just sitting there. It's like we were trying to be impartial, and there's bits cut out where it's either me or Stephen just going, "Come on!"
Yeah. It was fun. I will say, Tim, thank you for not incorporating the one-wheel immobilization rule, because I would have been very mad.
That's the thing. That was the thing. A few people commented on that, but I had a chat with Kane. You know, Kane, one of the judges from Behemoth. And what was the other one? Devourer he had over in Clashbots, which was an amazing, ridiculously over-engineered robot that fell over. And that's where it stayed. But I've spent a lot of time with Kane, and a lot of people think he's quite picky and fussy because he's on the FRA, and but he's just such a good laugh. And I had a really good chat with him about this fight, and he agreed with me that it was controlled movement. He was still able to move forward simply because it's so smooth underneath. It was sort of gliding on the side that didn't have a wheel, so he was still using controlled movement in that fight. And to be honest, you know, everyone loves a bit of drama and a bit of story as well. So I was like, let's keep it going. Nightingale hadn't clearly won at that point. Its weapon wasn't working. It wasn't really able to push Good Boy around that much. So I was like, there's still some chance here. And he very nearly won it a few times. That dance around the pit was ridiculous. That dance around the pit you can only summarize as if me and Sav had, drank a couple of bottles of gin each and decided to try and use a trampoline that turned out to be a swimming pool. So
I was getting Eric versus King Buxton Series 3 vibes from that moment.
I know where you're going with that one.
Totally, yeah.
Yes, it was fun. But yeah, Good Boy, it was a thing, and it did give us a really fun match. And so we finish off the roster with a robot that pretty much sums up this podcast in a nutshell. Serious business.
Okay, guys, I actually have to go now. I have choir practice, but I just want to say 2 things. First of all, serious business, you put your weapon on the wrong way.
The thing, I also noticed it's using a finger tech hub, and those things don't work very well.
The second thing I want to say is about Drizzle. It slices, it dices, it does the thing.
It does the thing so well. Oh no.
Oh, you know what I was talking about, right? Right,
Yeah.
Tommy?
It's a fun fact. In the UK, we've got featherweights. We've got the three verts of the apocalypse. It's Get Shreked, Shrapnel, and Blunt Force Trauma. Tom's built a vert called Straddle, which is basically featherweight huge, and he still can't join the verts club because it doesn't do the thing. He's yet to build a vert in featherweights that does the thing, so he's still not allowed in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I gotta get going, so ciao.
All right. So, are you gonna leave it recording, or what's up with that?
I don't think you guys want it to get going for over an hour and change, so I'll just end it here. You're still recording, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah. Anyway,
I think I'll just finish up a little bit. I got my OBS going too, and we can give our final thoughts and such.
All right. No. I seriously have to leave. But if you want my rating, I'm gonna give this episode. The fights were short, but the overall presentation and the overall entertainment value, I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, me too. I do see great promise in this series, and it's great seeing everybody just having a good time, having fun. And great seeing a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah, I think
I look forward to seeing how the UK Beetleweight class develops over time. We'll see. What these designs do.
I have to go. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Big shout out to the production crew and everyone behind.
Oh yeah.
For the resources that they had, I think they put on a really great show. Really, really good. Yeah.
I have to say as well, the level of professionalism, but at the same time fun, was really well balanced. For a first time run at something, it was fantastic. And that's down to the people. That's not down to fancy funding. That's not down to egos or whatever. That's down to the people really gritting down and doing hard work. It wasn't just for fun. It was genuine hard work. And like everyone knows, Sarah's always up for a laugh, always does memes, always on shunt posting, and some people use that and don't take her seriously because of that. But she really is someone to take seriously, because look at what she did with this team. She was a proper host. She wasn't like lol, silly, this, that, and the other. She was a proper host. And like Joe and Ben and Chris, all of those guys, if there's anyone I haven't mentioned from the Bristol scene, the BBB thing they do is insane. And they brought that energy from the Bristol bot builders, that fun, that sense of robots is about community, it's about having fun, it's not about money, it's not about who you think you are, it's not any of that, it's having fun and like giving kudos, respect for people, even if they turn up with something that falls apart, because they've made it there. Do you know what I mean? So that attitude they brought to the show, and I don't think it came through hugely on this first show because it's the first one. But as soon as you start seeing these characters, and some of the guys who aren't on screen are some of the best guys as well. They're hilarious. Like there's genuinely so much effort. Like everyone on every level got involved. You've got people like Ian and Kane and just those two guys have just been doing it so long in the UK Robot Wars scene. Anita, she's been doing it ages. You've got people like Dave Weston, who was happy to work that whole weekend doing safety checks and helping out in the background. Like he doesn't get a minute on the screen. He doesn't this, that, and the other. He's just happy to work there because of the environment, because of people around them. And there's so many good people. And you know what? The people that make out the majority of the attitudes and the way the builders are the best people out there, because you get a few people who try and stir, you get a few people who make rumours, you get that in anything, but 99% of people out there are great. And do you know what, even if people complain about egos, or even if people complain about how someone is or their robots aren't particularly good, it's the fact that that's part of the community. If everyone's was the same, it'd be pointless.
I mean it's like my robots are famously made out of scraps. It's like they look janky as all heck, and there's never a straight line on them because I can't cut a straight line. But I just can't. It's a medical impossibility for me. It's hilarious. But it's like we will all still go and help each other. It's like I went to an event back in June when I was helping out with the Team Immersion guys who were over in China with Bonfire, but they've got other heavyweights. And I spent most of that weekend just going about helping other teams. And it's like Tim's done it. Tom's done it. Tom's rocked up to events without a robot and just gone around and helped out and just gone for the social bit. Tim Tim will turn up for an excuse just to wear a t-shirt and his mohawk outdoors. It's just, he's the easiest guy in the planet. If it wasn't for the fact that I was, for a long time, didn't have much in the way of income, I'd have been at more events. There's also the fact that it's like a 7-hour drive for me, because I'm at the other end of I'm in a free country. And it's just, the whole community in the UK doesn't seem to have the showman's level that the US seems to have.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like the US put on a show, and it's like it's a bit like boxing. It's like people go to be entertained, and the robots are like second dressing. Yeah. In the UK, it's all about the robots, and if you're entertained, it's either because you're into it or your parents made you go. And it's like, when I did the commentary at UWE, there was a YouTuber that asked me why I love it so much, and I'll still maintain this. It is the best single way for introducing young people into STEM by a long way. If you want to get, and it's like, for ages, you would see it, they were jumping up and down, oh, look, it's girls doing engineering. If you want to introduce young people, girls, boys, whoever, into engineering, don't sit there and tell them about the maths.
Get them to do it.
Get them to do it.
Yeah,
because
totally.
You could sit and do a whole formula that explains how much force Drizzle had to hit Good Boy with to uppercut it into the pit, and how much force Good Boy had to hit the pit door to make it fail. Or you can just watch this video and then you can see it in real life.
There's so much. There's so much. Like, obviously, there are factors that come into it. You know, engineering wise, you need to know your gear ratios. You need to know your battery, capacity. You need to know certain things about your robots. But
if you don't, you'll learn quick.
Yeah, the general mold and build though is down to practice and use. The only way to describe it, for the last 2 years, I've immersed myself in robot combat. Like if there's somewhere to go, I'll be like, yeah, I'm there every time. And I ask questions. I want to see, because I've got a background in engineering. I've done engineering for my whole working career, but I really, really just love to see something different. And when there is, I don't copy it. I don't want to copy it. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to learn why that's so good, and if there's a way to beat that, or a way to improve it, or a way to incorporate some feature of that. And I'm sure as well, Tom, this time with Drizzle, you haven't seen a robot like that. Yeah, you've had verts, yeah, you had this and the other, but something that looks like it's been stretched and just so like charismatically different. I was actually more proud of that than I was like the Monsoon venture, because it was just so different. And you took something that was like a joke and actually sort of made it like real as well. And I thought that was really funny.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
it's like one of the one thing that me and Tom both want is, because Tom now has what we both reckon is the biggest vert in UK Beetleweights. I have the biggest horizontal in UK Beetleweights. I've got a Beetleweight with a 400mm bar. It's like, which is just as stupid. And the thing is, I don't get to go to the filming. I was banned, flat out banned from going, or told they couldn't even. Tom and Tim, we were online with each other for months, and they couldn't tell me a damn thing.
Yeah,
and it was driving them as mental as it was me, because they really wanted to know what I thought, and I couldn't find out. And I really wanted to go there, because all these ones, I never got to meet Tyler. I never got to meet any of the. Alex Mordew from Firestorm is there.
Oh my God, Tom, that's the best bit. He was helping Tom with something, and he'd been like talking to him for a good hour and a half, and I was like, "Oh, you enjoying talking to him?" And Tom's like, "Who is he?" And I was like, "That's the guy from Firestorm, Tom. Yeah. That is the guy." And you were like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, I remember I was sitting there trying to fix the motor shaft in Drizzle, and he just came over and was like, "Hey, do you need a hand?" I was like, "Yeah, if you've got any ideas?" And he just showed me a nice technique of getting the shaft out of the motor. And then I when I was sitting at his table and he was helping me out, I just looked over and saw a Firestorm toy and just went, "Oh yeah, it's Firestorm." and then it dawned on me slowly.
I have to say, Alex Mordew, like everyone who knows me or seen my robots, even the joke ones, even Spank was wired to a level that is ridiculously neat for something of that nature. So you know how ridiculously OTT I am when it comes to neatness of wiring.
How is that?
Basically,
one thing,
right?
Yeah. One thing about seeing all
Alex,
seeing Alex and seeing everybody, like, I've been watching Robot Wars since 2002, 2003, around then. And you look back at your childhood and you see all these guys on TV growing up, and then you actually go to an event and actually meet them in person. It's almost like meeting a celebrity. Like you're meeting a celebrity and ask for their autograph and photo.
Well, that's the thing. He was one of those guys that I always knew existed, but until this event, I didn't respect him as much as I did until this event, because I looked in that robot and the quality of that build inside of his robot, that it's just incredible. Like he'd actually designed 3D printed tracks for cable management and retention of cable stress, and I was like, oh yes, a man who understands. It's like, oh yes, he gets this. So it went from like a respect to an admiration of actually his build quality.
And I'll be honest, I had a similar moment to Tom at Insomnia, because Ian Lewis from Razor was there at one point one evening, and I was just pottering about, and I was I didn't recognize him at first, and I sort of said hi, and then I just suddenly had this, oh shit, I just realized who you are. And I suddenly realized I was talking to Ian Lewis from Razor, and I'm like, oh god, it's like meeting Jesus.
I actually worked with him at the company I'm leaving this week. He used to work there about 2 years ago, and that's how I got the tickets to go to see Robot Wars. Because I was in my interview, and he walked past the window. I was like, "Holy crap, that's Ian Lewis!" I was like, I literally said to my now boss, who won't be, but I said, "I'm really sorry. Can I just say hello to that person outside in the middle of my interview?" And I still got the job. So it was sort of.
All hail
like
Razor.
Simon Scott as well. Simon Scott from Razor. I regularly use him as a subcontractor for the jobs I manage where I work. He's fantastic. Like, honestly, he's one of the best machinists by hand you will ever meet. He will outdo CNC machines, and I know that's like a big statement, but seriously, anyone who knows him, anyone who's seen his work will accredit that. He made that first concussion drum from our design by hand.
Wow.
He milled that, turned it, bored it by hand, and we measured it on an optical inspection device, and my god, the tolerance was ridiculous. We were like, don't be too careful, it has to be roughly balanced. He took it to, like, you could measure it in microns. That's how good it was. It was ridiculous. He was so good at what he did.
Nice. So there's a little spirit of Razor floating around in Concussion.
With the first one, yeah.
Yeah. But, I think, as far as the matches go, yeah, they were short, but I do think there's promise.
If people are worried about the shortness of the matches this week, please tune in next week. Yeah. There are some epic ones.
As
the series goes on, there's some epic fights.
Short matches.
I don't want to downplay the series, but this is probably the weakest episode, in all fairness. Yeah. Like, the other ones have got some seriously good fights.
Should have done what the Series 7 people did. They switched the heats around so that Heat A is actually like Heat E or something like that.
Yeah, that's what happened in nearly all of the new Robot Wars as well. None of them the actual original heats they were spec'd as.
So as far as matches go, Serious Business lost its blade. Captain Doom just knocked him on his nose. Nightingale, good boy's tennis ball went rogue. And then there was a battle to see who can't go into the pit. Drizzle versus Futamishi. That
was a good solid fight, right?
That was a good solid face plant.
Yeah, good fight. Yeah, that was a fight. Yeah.
That's a fight that can be summed up as "Help me, I've fallen and I can't get up."
Oh my god, it's so frustrating because it was just a case of the pulley was not tightened on the weapon shaft.
It's basically
I'm
Tom's like, hold on, guys.
Of the fact that when I was commentating on that and I saw the video, I managed to call precisely what had happened before we ever got to hear from Tom about what had happened.
I literally said, like, to Tom at the time, it's like, hold on, guys. No, I do know how to do a backflip.
It needs to be dubbed. Someone needs to dub it to some breakdancing music.
It'd be a very short song then, wouldn't it?
And what else was there? We had the Losers Melee, which also went quickly because Drizzle decided to pile drive Good Boy into the pit zone and cause it to fall in.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment. I mean, depending on your definition of the rules, what was that an arena failure, or are we opening up a can of worms by bringing that up?
Oh,
it seems like whenever Tim's around, something always goes wrong with the pit. Either the pit just leans down or goes up.
Whoa.
What are you doing, Tim? You're cursing this place.
I think
I took a bit of stick from that. I had to sort of defend why myself and Shane continued the fight, but at the time it was the fact that it naturally continued on. Obviously, Good Boy wasn't. You didn't see it at the end, but it wasn't moving inside the pit. It obviously something had come off, something had come loose. So I didn't feel that was unfair in any way. I mean, he was definitely on top in that fight, Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's like serious business. That hit that it took from Drizzle killed it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was not moving.
Away.
It was in a position because when we watched it for recording, you can see it lands in a position where it could have got away. He could have got away, repositioned, got his bearings, and gone on the attack. And he just doesn't. It just sits there and takes another hit. And for me, as far as I'm concerned, I've judged events, I've commentated on events. I have seen hundreds of fights where it has just gone like that. As soon as you see a robot land and doesn't run away from a big hit, they've either not been given the chance or they're dead. And he was given plenty of time because Tom was still in shock that his robot had done something.
I've noticed this happens, yeah.
So once you got it to work, it actually worked. It hit. It got a good
What about
hit.
the road to that robot, Tom?
In fact, I would like to say that we have the pick for the John Reed Good Hit of the Night Award, and that, of course, goes to Drizzle for the hole-in-one.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
It's an interesting story behind how that got ready for that match, wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, with the assistance of Tim, impartial referee Rackers. I mean, yeah. So, Tim, do we explain?
I don't know. It's up to you, Tom.
Do it.
Take lead.
I don't know if we should. So,
would you like me to deal with this? Would you like me to deal with this? I have a full story on this one.
Do you know what happened? So, me and Tim were sharing a hotel room, and Sub will tell you what happened.
Uh-oh.
Right. Basically, they were playing. No, I'm not going to go there. Basically, what happened is before the series was filmed, and I know this because I was in communication with the production team, being part of the commentary. A lot of teams that were meant to be going had to pull out for various reasons, and we suddenly ended up with no reserves at all. So the bots that were there were literally the bots that were there. They had to work. Now,
yeah, true.
As usual, all Roboteers were chipping in with everyone. It was just a case of get everything working. And it just so happens that Tom and Tim had booked a hotel with a nice jacuzzi and a double bed. And they were all nice and cozy. And Tim being OCD when it comes to wiring, and I know this from what happened to him when he looked inside Blunt Force Trauma. He basically did a lot of the tweaking and the redoing of the inside of Drizzle. Not a lot, just enough to make it so it would run the next day, because it was a bit hit and miss. And it went in and it did that.
Yeah. Woo.
And so it's like, on the one hand, you've got Roboteers helping each other, and Tim and Tom have been friends for a long time. And it's like they've butted many parsnips together. But, but at the same time, there is the question of Tim's the referee. Should he really be helping out a competitor, especially one that A, should know better, and B,
pack it in.
and B, knows what he's doing. For all intents and purposes, he's not an idiot.
The thing is, I helped several teams that weekend. Yeah. It was definitely not just Tom. I could name you 6, maybe 7 teams I helped out. One of which significantly, because they weren't working at all, And yeah, you know, so I wasn't just a Tom by any means, but I will never forget the sight of 2:00 in the morning, seeing Tom in his pants, dremeling in a hotel room, praying that the fire alarm doesn't go off.
Oh, I remember that.
That's something that will not leave my brain.
I remember you commenting on how loud it was being, so I think I just turned the RPM down a bit on the Dremel, so it was a little bit quieter and kept going. That was good.
I'm sure the neighbours to us in that hotel definitely thought it was a Dremel you were using.
Hotel Chainsaw Massacre.
There's nothing wrong with two guys in a hotel room, you know, dremeling.
And a Dremel.
Dremeling in their underwear.
Dremeling. Two guys in a hotel room in their underwear, you know, dremeling away. That's fine. That's all right.
Non-stop dremeling away.
They had a safe word. It's fine.
The safe word was Drizzle, so it's okay.
Excuse me.
No, I had such a good laugh with Drizzle, I'm not going to lie. You know, coming from building heavyweights and outweights, it was quite good fun to make something in the middle, because the thing is with outweights, I find that they're just too fiddly. Yeah. And featherweights and heavyweights in particular, of course, are so big and bulky to move around.
It's a big investment as well.
Yeah, it is, right? To work on something like a Beetleweight that can cost a few £100 is quite nice, because you can get all the parts off eBay. Like the motors were a £5 off eBay. All the aluminium was just like water jet cut from 8mm stuff, and all in it cost about £150, like the metal. And it was just a really good. It was just a really good laugh to work on.
And when he got it in weight, it was even better.
Yeah. And when it was good. And you know, in my defence, I have now got Drizzle working, and a few weeks later at the Euros, with a disc on Drizzle, I found that when it fell over or face planted, it acted like a bit like a wheel, and it just got back up. So Drizzle no longer does the thing, which is quite nice.
In fairness, and I think this is what's hampered Drizzle on the internet, is because the videos from the Euros came out before Bugglebots. The thing is, the Euros were filmed, but happened after Bugglebots. So there's a bit of continuity issue.
I knew that would happen as well, because Bugglebots was in September.
Because internet.
Euros came out a few weeks later, and people saw Drizzle and were like, "Oh, it's Drizzle," and then I just knew, oh dear. With that bar, you know, I've still got the bar and everything, but I don't know if I'll use it on Drizzle, really. So.
Just don't kill anybody with it.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got plans for season 2 when that happens. So yeah, we'll see.
Do you know what? If season 2 doesn't happen because of funding, we should definitely do a crowdfunder, because it's such a good thing for the community. I'd 100%, you know, back that.
I'll definitely back it up. Robo Games in 2015 had to have a Kickstarter to back everyone up, and that was a success. So yeah, I'd be up to backing you guys up too.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Do I get to place? I know. I have a kid. Bye, baby. No, I'm just kidding.
If you applied with Mondo Bizarro and you wanted to come over, you're welcome to apply. This is something that I wanted to flag up at some point about this, because there's been comments on Reddit. Yes, I know it's the AIDS of the internet, but it's many people have said, were the robots selected, or was it invite only? There was 2 months. Was it nearly 2 months of applications, if I believe right?
Like it, 2 months.
2 months of application time.
A good while. The window was pretty big. Yeah.
Which is like, considering that Robot Wars sometimes gave people as little as 6 weeks. BattleBots, I think it was something like a month to 2 months.
Yeah.
Insomnia for featherweight champs in the UK. You're talking. We had. I think it was
9 days.
9 days. I was told 4 days before I had to be at 2017 that I was going to be there, if my memory serves. And I had to rebuild the robot after being told I wasn't in. And I suddenly had to be there. Hence the reason I ended up sleeping in Tom's washing machine.
That was amazing. That was such a funny night. That was such a funny night.
First night I met Tim. First night I met Tom. Sleeping in his washing machine.
Shared a room.
Shared a living room. The inflatable bed filled up the room.
I've shared a room and a bedroom with so many roboteers now, I can't even. Oh my goodness!
It's just so sketchy. But so fun.
As long as it's not Jerome, you're fine to share a room.
Oh my god! Don't let him near your bed. Just saying.
Yeah, bring
You know,
plastic sheeting.
Just bring
Spare sheets.
Bring out a mop bucket, you'll be fine.
But it's like the robots that were selected to go in. There was a very big variety. Then, as I said earlier, there were a lot of people that had to withdraw for various reasons.
Tim, we're on a podcast. We can't discuss this, Tim. Stop it.
Two stories going on at the same time. You got Tim and Tom cracking up. Alasdair,
They do nothing.
They do nothing.
I did not.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
The memes at BattleBots, I can't even. Oh, anyway.
So many.
Continue.
Yeah, but the selection process was based around the concept of having variety. But also in that was as Tom stopped pissing himself.
Ooh.
I know.
Also included in that was good story. Oh, for God's sake, Tom, I'm going to punch you.
You're all the way in
Go
Scotland.
into timeout, Tom.
Breathe.
Continue.
Breathe.
Go.
Right.
Tim.
Oh, boy.
Back it in.
Serious business, my friend.
You've got verbal diarrhea there. Get a grip. But yeah, this is what's great about working with kids. You learn self-control. Now, most of the robots that were picked either because it was a really interesting story behind them, or they were sort of, dynamically interesting. Like things like Nightingale, things like Drizzle. We had the whole story behind this episode, because each episode kind of forms its own story. This one was mostly about a combination of Tyler, the 9-year-old wonder kid from America, who's came out of nowhere in the US to just absolutely dominate. And then you've got the flip side of Tom, the BattleBots hero of UK, and Robot Wars 8-second wonder. Ever get this thing to work? It's like this monster of a bar, and it's sort of like you can see the stories unfold throughout the episode of Tom failing on his face and Tyler just sort of coming over and doing what he does best, which is just out driving anything that he's put in the arena with. And it's as you watch each episode as it goes on, you will see a storyline through each episode. Very unintentional, but very cool.
Yeah. It's like it's kind of like pro wrestling in a way. You have all the storylines going around, and you want it to all come together. Maybe the good guy triumphs over the bad guy, or something like that, or Behemoth finally gets his heat win, or manages to overcome odds.
I'm gonna put it out there right now. Episode 3 is gonna be the one that stuns everyone.
Ooh.
And I reckon Tim will know what I'm on about.
I can't remember which one was which.
Could be
I was mostly blasted off my face on bantha milk. I'm joking.
What you don't see in the corner is every time the cameras are off Tim, he's in there with a hip flask.
Bias ref.
Oh,
bias, more like paralytic.
Yeah.
Hardly. I was completely within control of my actions.
Just not your bowel.
I need to see movement.
Tim, you had way too much fun counting me out.
Oh, I did. I really did.
Yeah, that was
I knew you could take it, though.
Commentate on that at that point because we were too busy laughing.
Move it!
Oh, and I
had
did
to.
Monsoon shout. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised that there isn't a BattleBots t-shirt and it's just the rest face with, I'm going to need to see some movement.
I'm sure somebody's going to print something like that out.
When can we make this happen?
Now, ASAP. Get going. Get that printer running. So, I think the last few matches, Captain Doom just, what was it?
Steamrolled.
Steamrolled Fudamishi. The Nightingale Drizzle match was actually interesting because both robots' weapons weren't working, but Drizzle, you managed to stay on your wheels. And
yeah.
Did you say something that you had magnets in Drizzle or something?
Yeah. So because Drizzle, so the way I design robots is that I don't make them very sensible. What I often do is I think, right, I want the biggest possible vertical weapon, but how can I make it sort of work? And with Monsoon and / Tauron, of course, it was to make the section pivot, and that's been there since Tauron 1. And with Drizzle, one way to get around that is to use magnets, because when you have such an enormous vertical weapon, of course, turning is often a little tricky. So
I have to say, there is a scene in the recording that we had to retake about 8 times because all you hear is Tom comparing his weapon to a 9-year-old boy's. And it's just the line with, "I've got a bigger weapon than him. I should bloody hope so, Tom. He's not even 10.
Jesus Christ, man.
I don't even know how to respond.
I've already seen some of the shunt posting pics where Tom is showing Sarah his big pink D.
Oh dear.
It has started.
Anyway. Yeah, so with Drizzle, simply put, it wouldn't work without the magnets. I've driven it on the floor.
What?
I've driven it on the floor in my flat without the weapon going, of course. And the whole thing just tips over backwards the second you accelerate. It wouldn't work without the magnets at all. And with those magnets, it gets such a decent amount of downforce that it can outpush most other pushers. At the Euros, I was able to outpush Limpet at certain times. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I've noticed quite a few competitors have been using like magnetic wheels, so that you can run right over like the Bite Force originally had the magnets in the treads, so that it can give extra pushing power and a little harder for them to push. And
it's a subject that's a lot of contention and debate at the moment in the UK, because I know there's a lot of people that you've got the two camps. You've got the ones that say there's no problem with magnets, it's just a thing that's there. It doesn't cause that, it's not a big deal because there are disadvantages to using them. But then you've got the camp that want them banned because it's essentially what you're doing is you're adding weight to your robot by giving it more downforce.
Yeah.
At the first European Beetleweight Championships in the UK in 2017, the eventual winner was a robot called Incomplete Control, which was built by Rory Mangles of Nuts fame. Okay, now it used it used the standard Beetleweight drivetrain, but it had 2 giant magnets on the base of it, and it suctioned it so tight down to the floor that it weighed about 3 kilos when you added in the force of the magnets. Now, if you've got anything that's going to increase the weight of a robot, okay, yeah, you've got to put more strain on the motor and stuff, but you're automatically at an advantage. So you're going to have people that don't like the magnets and they're going to want them banned. So it's a bit... There are camps for both sides of it. And like people that do the big verts, like of myself and Sam Price, we like magnets because it means that our verts can stay vertical long enough for us to launch people into next week. I don't know what the US is like for magnets. I don't know what...
It's aside from Bite Force, there is a Beetleweight that is made. It's called Dark Pummeler, and it uses magnetic wheels, and it's like a very low wedge. It's so low that it's almost impossible to try and get under and hit it, and it just glides right over the surface of the arena floor like a swan. Like it's almost. It's really like it's so fast and so smooth and very very dangerous. And it was built by oh crap, how do I forget his name? Team Dark Forces. He built Dark Track and Lightning Tracks in Robot Wars. I can't believe I forget.
I think I know who you mean, but I can't remember his name.
Russ Barrow is his name. He built Dark Pummeler, Dark Pounder, which is in the Robot Combat Hall of Fame right now. It's the first Antweight to be in the Combat Hall of Fame. But yeah, it used magnetic wheels, and it's really cool. And other Nate Franklin owns one of the Dark Pounder robots now, like the Shell. So yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, magnets. That's how they work. All the years you've been asking how do magnets work, that's how.
But things like Drizzle wouldn't work without magnets.
No.
No,
It just wouldn't.
It wouldn't. This was the first robot I'd ever done with magnets, and I can see how they can be very, very powerful in Beetleweights. You know, there was a clip that I think went on shunt posting where I was trying to drive it up a whiteboard.
I saw that.
Amazing. One of my favorites.
It immediately just went plop the second.
I love the fact that even in combat, your robot still falls over.
Oh.
It's like, even when you're trying to do something to show off something, it still face plants.
That's it. But the thing is, there were some robots there that could actually drive up and down the whiteboard on with their magnets.
Again, episode 3.
Which is very impressive. But
I'd find it really funny if there's a match where a robot just random is just driving along and then just drives right up the wall.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But,
That's happened in Antweights. That has happened in Antweights.
Yeah, I think I saw that at one point.
Yep. Well, when you've got the ability to have that much downforce in a Beetleweight fight, it can be really very powerful. Maybe a little bit too much. So.
Yeah, but so Drizzle, Captain Doom in the Heat final, and Captain Doom won. The end.
Yep.
Yeah. It's great. There's not a lot to talk about in the fights because there never really was one. There was actually only, if truth be told, there was 2 fights in this entire thing, and the rest of it was just a 13-second face plant.
Mike Tyson matches.
Yeah.
Nah. Well, yeah. I will say that it was entertaining, though.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if I had that disc, it may not have got stuck. But Tyler was on me immediately, and I didn't really have much chance. So
the thing that scares me is, as I said when we were discussing the competitors, I can genuinely see Tyler within the next. I'm gonna put a number on. I'm gonna say 5 years. I'm gonna say 5 years. Within the next 5 years, I can see Tyler being a major heavyweight competitor.
Yes.
And 5 years old.
A major heavyweight threat.
Yep.
And he's going to still be someone that a lot of people underestimate. Because I'll guarantee you, people, when he came over, there'll be people that have just gone, oh, it's a kid with a D2, oh, how cute. And then when those first couple of fights, they'll have sat there and they've gone, oh, shit, he actually knows what he's doing.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he will be. And if Tyler ever hears this, he has my full respect. And at some point when he's next over in the UK and it's an event I can actually get to, I look forward to having a go at him because it'll be an interesting fight.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love a rematch with him with the disc so that I don't get so stuck.
I'd love to just be allowed to go and play.
Next time, so you'll get there.
It's the running joke of I never get into anything.
Don't worry.
Right?
You'll get your chance. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers the first episode. This podcast went twice as long as the actual episode aired. But,
This is
difficult
when you get us 3 in a podcast. This is
yeah.
We-
It's a
we-
dangerous combination.
We regularly play online together, so we're used to chatting nonsense for a long time.
Brilliant. And we were going to say, hey, we'd like to have you on more. We're actually thinking of reviewing the spaced episode Metal in the future. And we want Tim and Tom to be on to be the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Honestly, I can't iterate this enough. Simon Pegg is one of the 3 people in my life I would love to meet. I read his biography. He's one of the coolest people. Him, Jack Black, and Brian Blessed would be amazing. John Candy would be on that list, but I feel it'd be a bit awkward talking to someone who isn't there anymore. Yeah. So, those 3, Simon Pegg, Wilde. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Simon Pegg, Nick Frost for me are two people I would love to just actually
do it.
Share coffee and a Star Wars rant. I think it'd be a fun one.
And 12 pints
Definitely.
of beer.
That's just
only 12. You lightweight.
I'm not a drinker, unfortunately. So if you guys need,
I'm Scottish. I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I have a I have a history. I don't have a choice.
Yeah. But,
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's genetic.
Bugglebots. It's the new hit Beetleweight robot fighting show. It is available to watch on YouTube, the Bugglebots YouTube page. You can look that up right now, and you'll find episode 1, I'm sure, right at the top. So, Episode
do.
2 is next
Monday, the 24th of December
20.
at 7 p.m. UK time.
So that's
if
that's
So
right
if
around
Google
Christmas.
tells you what time that is in your country, whatever country you're listening to this from.
Good Christmas present if you want to snuggle up, drink some hot cocoa or your favorite beer, and watch robot fighting. Be sure to.
Or
watch
you're just sick
episode
of your
2
family
Bugglebots.
all singing Christmas carols and want them all to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Or if you're lonely and have no friends.
Oh, I can definitely handle that. I got my friend right here, Mr. Poland Spring.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway.
It was great having all you guys on here. I hope that we'll all have you back on. We'll review more Bugglebots, maybe some BattleBots related media and stuff. And Nate, he has the. It's all recorded. Nate's got the first half of the audio. I got the second half. So should be fun. And I think the last thing to note is we must give our goodbyes until the next episode. And it was great having you guys on.
Yeah, thank you. Farewell, Internet.
Farewell.
I'll see you later.
Until next time, I am the Hardcore Kid. Otaku Nate was here.
I've been Tom. Yay.
I was sub.
Tom. I've been Tim, and I've made random fart noises throughout the whole interview.
And of course, not forgetting the Eric meme man.
Oh, yeah. I've been Suv.
Until next time, peace out and cease.